Tak więc, kochani, witam Was bardzo serdecznie w Świecie Muzyki. Tak jak widzicie, mamy odcinek bonusowy do odcinka I Give Up poprzedniego. I w dzisiejszym odcinku gościmy Briana Fentress. Mam nadzieję, że francuska wymowa jest w porządku. To jest też jakby z mojej strony być może zmyłka dla Was, kochani, żebyście mogli usłyszeć, skąd Brian pochodzi. A teraz, Brian, for you, I switch to English, bo wiem, że mówisz po polsku, ale better you go with English, so in this episode will be English. So, kochani, jeśli ktoś nie umie angielskiego, przepraszam, napisów nie będzie. To będzie dla Was też, żeby się nauczyć. So now we continue talk in English. So.
Ale na początku może być troszeczkę po polsku.
Dobrze, Brian, to introduce yourself first. Skąd jesteś? Co robisz w Polsce?
Dzień dobry wszystkim, mam na imię Brian Fentress i cieszę się, że tu jestem na podcast. Dzięki Korean za opportunity. I jestem za Stanów, Detroit, Michigan, ale mieszkałem w wiele miejsc za Stanów, takie jak Portland, Oregon, Detroit, Michigan, Portland, Oregon, Alabama, Arizona, Atlanta, Seattle, and Dallas, Texas.
And what brought you, co ciebie przyciągło do Polski?
Muzyka gospel.
English, yeah.
Okay. Actually, I had a conversation before I talked to you in a lesson, and I realized that the way that I've witnessed gospel music being done in America, I have uncles who are gospel artists. So I have a, family who's been in touch with the industry, and my grandfather's a pastor, so I grew up with gospel music in our church. So I've seen authentic and inauthentic styles of gospel. And the industry was something that I wanted to be a part of. But what I wanted to do, I had to be in the industry to do it in the States.
This way.
And in that way. And then it was hard for me to make that compromise. So then when the opportunity for Poland came up, actually it wasn't even an opportunity. A lady came to my church. She was Polish, brought in by another missionary.
Okay.
Her name is Maggie. She's from Poznan, and she played the piano for Gospel Joy.
Choir. Nice.
And so she was just coming to see the church and see a gospel choir in rehearsal. And she talked about what's happening in Poland with gospel music, specifically Gospel Joy. And I just kind of felt like this is where I'm supposed to be in Poland. I cannot explain to you how...
This is like you have this feeling inside that brings you to another country because you have this, let's say, belonging. Like spiritual belonging.
Yes. It wasn't even a belonging yet. It was a desire to belong.
Okay.
In the right space. Doing the right thing. And I didn't know if that was the case. Actually, I wasn't even invited. I invited myself. I told her I'm coming to Poland after she finished her talk. I actually cried for like 5 minutes, hysterically, after. Because my mom had died like a year prior to that. And I was really searching for my place in the world and with my gifts in music and my love for conducting gospel choirs. And I just really couldn't find it. And I was in places that would take advantage of me or ignore me. And I was really vulnerable. So when this concept of Poland came up, it was so overwhelming in the feeling of that's where I'm supposed to be. I couldn't explain it. So it just came out in tears. And so she was shocked, but also she said that out of all of the cities and places that she had been to, sharing about Poland and gospel music as a ministry, that no one had ever responded in the way that I did.
Okay.
And that was kind of like a confirmation for her later. But as I said before, I wasn't invited. So I just bought my ticket, applied for my passport, and got on the plane 5 months after I met her.
Like, because, you know, we believed in something like American dream. Did you find your Polish dream in the fact that you came to Poland? Was something like Polish dream?
Something like that. I mean, I would say the first thing was that I had never been out of the country outside of like Canada. I was in Canada before, but it's, you know, America life. So when I flew to Poland, I was living in Arizona at the time, so we don't have seasons in Arizona. It's just hot and then less hot. There's no grass. It's just the sun is always shining. There are no clouds, you know.
Yeah.
So I came to Poland in December.
Mm-hmm.
So it was
the
really
coldest
cold,
ever.
Snow everywhere. So I was excited about that because I'm from Michigan, you know, and I hadn't been in snow in like 4 years at that point. So 3 years at that point. And so I was excited about feeling kind of like at home there. And I was by myself. So everybody that I met, and again, I wasn't invited. So people didn't have an expectation from me. It was just, this guy from the States who wants to be here and see what's happening. So I got a chance to really develop some relationships with people who didn't expect something from me. But then they asked, as the workshop approached, they asked if I would teach one song. And so I said, okay, sure, I'll teach one song. And so when we got to the workshop place, I didn't have any expectations. I walked in and I just saw, you know, a couple of people at the registration table. I spoke. When I turned the corner and entered the room, there were 400 people in an elementary school auditorium.
Okay.
And everybody was super excited and the energy in the room was so high. And I got a chance to see David Daniel. He was the main instructor. Him teach a couple of songs from UK. And so then they asked me to teach a song. And so I got up, and within the first 30 seconds of me starting to teach a song, I knew 100% that Poland was the place for me to be. And the crazy thing is while I had that feeling, so did the people who organized the workshop. They were like, this is the guy we've been waiting for.
Basically, because you maybe don't know it, the audience, but Brian had visited Bielsko. So those one who didn't listen to podcast and just listen to this episode, we met with Brian a month ago in Bielsko, and I could see live how Brian is conducting his own, let's say, students. Because in fact, this group of people, besides the choir that was behind, these are your students, right?
I would say less students, more community.
Okay.
We meet every Monday, and they're all artists. They all have their own music. They have their own careers and things like that. After the pandemic, I just wanted to create a safe space for artists and, you know, to teach them music and to give them support. And it turned into a group. So, so we're more of a community. Yeah. And
pointing to the main topic of today's episode, this is a song, I Give Up. I ask you one of 4 questions. Choose, you want first start with the most difficult or the easiest one?
Let's start with the easiest.
Okay, so what are your reflections after years? While you first time wrote I Give Up, and after this time, what maybe changed, or what kind of reflections you have after years, even singing the song? When you know,
I understand. I mean, well, because my journey with the song is like a 10-year journey.
Yeah, and I wanted to specify like the first year in this 10 years, and then maybe after like 5 years and another 5 years. It would be maybe the best.
Okay, well, in the beginning, when I wrote the song, I was really in a dark place. And I realized that I didn't love myself. And it was shocking for me that, because I always thought, okay, I have to be like Jesus and I have to love other people selflessly. But that doesn't mean that you hate yourself. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
And I didn't understand that. Well, I honestly didn't know that I didn't like myself. I was so focused on trying to love other people. But you can't love other people if you don't love yourself first.
That is true.
And that's the lesson I had to learn. So in the midst of that, I decided to leave Poland because I had been living in Poland for 3 years at that point. And I needed to go to a therapist and just get myself together. And it was in that space that I wrote the song, because I felt like in my relationship with God at that time, I was not what he wanted me to be, but I had no control over changing that. And so I kept asking him to do it for me. Like, you change me to what you want me to be. And it wouldn't happen. And I was surrounded by people who would tell me that I'm doing something wrong, or maybe God doesn't love me enough, or because I'm not changed. So that just really caused me to hate myself, to be frustrated with God, and to not like people or church. So I was like, I give up. I'm tired. I tried to do everything everybody else wanted me to do, but nothing's working. And I don't want to feel like this anymore. I give up. And so that's what the song was written. Then about maybe, I would say 3 years later, I was singing and doing concerts with Eva Uriga.
Okay.
And she wanted to record the song because I played it for her. So I was like, okay, sure, you can record it, because at that point I didn't feel like I could sing it. Or that it belonged to me. I still knew I wrote it and I knew why I wrote it, but I wasn't at the place where I could sing it. And so she recorded it, and we were going to do a CD with it, but some details of the project unfortunately didn't go through, so it wasn't released, or, and at the time I was just like, okay, but, in the end, it seemed to be better. And then like 2 years ago maybe, I decided, okay, it's time for me to focus back on my artistry as a solo artist and not as with a gospel group. And so I started to think, okay, well, what songs would I do? And then I thought about I Give Up, and my life had really kind of transitioned at that point, because I was at a place where I was loving myself. And so I felt like I can't sing this song because I don't feel the same like when I wrote it, and I want to be honest while I'm singing it. So it was a struggle for a couple of years to decide if I'm going to record it. So finally I met Shimon Stolt, and then I let him hear some of the songs that I wanted to record. And when he heard I Give Up, he was like, you have to record this song. And I kept getting messages from people who heard it, who I would play it for, and they were like, you have to record this song. It just has an immediate impact on people because it's such a universal message, and it's human and honest. And so I was like, okay, fine. So we recorded it, and then I waited for a long time to release it because, you have to get it mixed and mastered, and there's a lot of processes to go with the music business side of it. But honestly, everything happened in the time that it should have. And at the right time, because I released it right before I came to Bielsko-Biała.
And you mentioned you visited psychotherapist, and because one of focuses I do in the channel is also I focus on, let's say, a sort of therapy, like psychology topic and stuff like this. And I wanted to ask you, did you get a chance, or did you heard of working on inner child?
Yes, because that was my biggest issue is that because I didn't work on my inner child, I would turn into him.
Yes.
Every time I was around like a strong mother figure I was always trying to please everybody as a little child.
Yeah.
And then so finally when I actually, my therapist gave me a book called Stranger at the Gate. written by Mel White. And that book changed my life because it was the first time I read a story of somebody else's who sounded exactly like mine. And we made a lot of the same decisions up to a certain point. And then I saw how his life went, and it gave me some hope. Like, I don't have to throw me away because there's nothing wrong with me. I need to change my mind about who I am and love that little boy that's on the inside of me really build him up and tell him there's nothing wrong with you. You're okay. And hug him and embrace him. And, and that caused me to mature in a way emotionally that was just incredible because I was really looking and searching for a place to be loved. And sometimes that led me into places with people who were just there to take advantage of me and to take advantage of my abilities and my gifts in exchange for just feeling like I belong. So finally, when I was able to do that, and now being 40, that also helps.
Well, that is also like hope for people who listen to us. Maybe they are 50, 60-year-old. They always can change. If they only learn to love as self at the first point.
Yes. And like you said, learn to love yourself at the point that there was a disconnect. Because I was trying to love myself as an adult, but I needed to go back.
To a small child, 5-year-old, 4-year-old, who is probably crying, who is left, or maybe beaten, because often there are cases where children are beaten by parents, and this is also something impacting the future.
Yes. And specifically in my case, I was dealing with something that our church was taboo, so we didn't talk about it.
Understand.
And like same gender attraction. That was really hard for my family to kind of deal with, so just nobody talked about it. And they just crossed their fingers and hoped and prayed that it would just go away. When I was a broken human child, and I just needed to be loved. I didn't need answers. I just needed love. I didn't need direction. I needed love. Yeah. And so I had to go back and love myself in those places. And now I feel like I was just riding my bike today, and I was taking in some deep breaths in nature and just like, I'm so content. I know good things are happening and I know bad things are happening. But regardless of the two, I'm content with where my life is, with the relationships that I have in my life, with the success or the things that I didn't get a chance to achieve. It's okay because I'm content. If it will happen, it will happen. And I will be appreciative. If not, I have so many great things that I can think about that are just the fact that I can go outside and breathe the fresh air and ride a bike. That's it. That's enough for me.
And this is like a clue of happy life. Because people sometimes they wonder or they even ask a question, what can make me at least happy? And once I answered one person, you don't have to ask, when will I be happy? But if I'm right now happy. Because if you are right now happy, then you are always happy. And there's another like psychological therapy. Maybe it's not therapy itself. This is some process. And I don't know if you met it before, something like bypassing.
Okay. I don't think I've heard
it is something like you do sort of prayer or meditation where you usually close your eyes and you figure out situations from the past that hurt you, like emotionally. So it's again about inner child. But in this process, for example, you see, just giving an example, you have a case where father is beating you, and bypassing, it's a process where you, let's say, take picture of the situation, it turns into black and white, so like mono, and you replace this picture with new one, colorful, where, for example, father is hugging you. And this is also one of ways to heal inner child.
Oh, that's actually great. Oh, I'm going to have a conversation about this when I get finished with this interview.
Okay. I thought it will be curious to you. And this is like something that really works. Of course, this is not like you do it once. Sometimes it is processed like times, 10 times, 100 times. But this is...
You just have to keep replacing
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, because honestly, I am very introspective. I think about every aspect of everything that's been happening. That was a problem. And so then I developed this thing where I go, If you ever hear me say, it's because there's a memory playing where I've experienced some kind of embarrassment or shame. And I didn't choose to think about it at that moment. It's just happening in my mind. And I become aware, and I have to shake myself to say, no, that's the past. And I don't have to carry that shame. I don't have to carry that embarrassment. And I say, to myself, and then I'm good at that point. And so I feel like bypassing is like an extra step to now say, okay, let me take something that was positive in that concert where I sang a wrong note that I felt shame about, or when I showed emotions and cried in front of the audience. And I was like, oh, I feel embarrassed. Why did I cry? And say, you know what? Somebody came up to me after the concert and said, thank you for being so honest and thank you for being so open, so I can replace that shame feeling with the positive comment.
This is right. And when I came to your concert, I was thinking like, because there were a lot of cases, like I was asking question, God, where you lead me? What you want me to experience? It was like when I came to your concert and I heard your song, I Give Up. It was like gunshot, but like not killing, but like giving an answer, how to say, giving something you cannot name. Or maybe this way, I can't name it even right now, but that was something that released me. And it was like, man, I need to have it in my podcast to give it people a chance. And when you were talking about your story during concert, I felt it was a little bit about me. I mean, like, I found some similarities from what you were talking about.
Okay.
And like, I wanted to ask you, if when you are 40, what would you say? And this is like, people who listen to this is not only Brian is answering this question, this is also for you question. Także kochani, teraz pytanie, jakie zadałem, i to też jest nie tylko dla Briana, ale też dla was. Co byście powiedzieli wy, mający 20, 30, może 50, 60 lat? Co byście powiedzieli do swojej osoby mającej 5, 10, 15, 20 lat? Przechodząc pewne trudności i patrząc na nie z pewnego dystansu. So, now in English, what would be a case or sentence or something you, being 40, would say to you, being 20 or 15 or 10? What would be that? Like, the most, like, important ever.
I would probably, at all of those stages, I know this sounds cliche, but it's going to get better. It's going to get better. And I think that was the thing that kind of stopped me in the past or created so much fear. That's actually in the song. Because of fear and loneliness, I took my life in my hands. But the deception was believing that I could trust in my own plan. So that, you know, because I was like, it's never going to happen for me. I'm going to always be lonely. I'm never going to be accepted. I'm never going to find my place, and I'm not going to be happy. And so because of those fears, I started to make decisions. And so I would just tell myself in those moments when I felt that, it's not going to be like this always. It's going to get better. Trust me. Just hang in there. It's going to get better.
This is like very touching. I mean, I hope also you listeners, you feel it touching to yourself, because maybe you are right now at the point of hopelessness where you experience the deepest, the darkest place. So these words spoken by Brian, let they drill in your mind deeply. So if you are right here listening and maybe even crying, stop crying after a while and focus and try to maybe listen again to what Brian just said. And if you need, repeat again and again, as long as you get the point where you understand. Nothing else, just understand. And I don't know if you...
Can I add one thing to that?
Yeah.
I would say that also it gets better, but that doesn't mean that bad things and things like that won't, in difficult situations, won't happen. And I say that because in the midst of the happiness that I feel now, there are people who still will not hire me for workshops because they don't think that I am the type of person, because I'm gay, that I'm disqualified from being able to do and teach gospel music and lead concerts. My marriage is not legal in Poland. There are a lot of things that are like still burdens and hindrances, but when you love yourself, it's a different perspective of how you see those things. And like I said, I'm content. I'm content with the fact that there are people who do not like me. I'm content with the fact that there are people who actively want to take opportunities away from me, because I know that they have no power to do that. Whatever's going to be for me is going to be for me, and there's no human that can ever stop that. So I just rest and relax in life, the journey, life, the story, life, the movie. It has the moments where you cry, the moments where you laugh, the moments that make you feel warm inside, the moments of love and compassion. And at the end of the day, it's a whole story. And I'm just living through chapter to chapter and appreciating every page, every line, and every word.
So this is, listeners, like what you need to get in your life. So just transferring it for you. Imagine you have a book and this book is about your life. If you see there are chapters about your sadness, just skip to the chapter where you feel happiness and immerse yourself.
And remember, there are past situations that you were able to overcome. And sometimes you have to go back and remember those to say, wait, I was able to make it through this tough time and I didn't think I was going to make it through that. And look where I am today. So if I'm in a tough situation now, then this is going to be a place I look back on in the future when I have a difficult moment. So I'm going to get through this today. I'm going to make it today because I've made it through much more difficult things in the past.
That is also a good point. And that is also great support for those who feel weakness and who even maybe lost belief in him, herself. First, before you start believe in yourself, of course, believe in God, because God is the only one who makes everything working. But don't forget to believe in yourself.
And that's the crazy thing. I had the crazy belief in God, crazy faith. But if you don't love yourself and believe in yourself, I mean, what can he do with you? And I know there's a lot of stories that we talk about in the Bible, like Elijah, who was scared, and then God had to send him some food and stuff like that, or whatever, because he saw all the other prophets get killed, and he was like, why am I still here. Well, they gonna kill me too, you know. So we have moments of weakness that we feel, but you have to know that there's value in your existence. And there's value in your experience of your existence. And you may not be the savior of the world, or you may not be the president, you may not be, but there are people who are in your direct influence who benefit from you loving yourself and enjoying life and loving others. So just focus on that.
That is also good.
Just every day, step by step.
And it's also good because I observe that 21st century serve us like an experience that we need to be someone, let's say, meaningful to society, just to exist. Because if we are not important to someone, we do not exist. And I say it's fake, because if you just exist for yourself and for God, then you basically need nothing else. You can exist for someone else, but on behalf of your will, not someone else's will.
Yeah. It has to be a whole well-rounded balance, situation. Too much of one thing is always too much.
And just to clarify, listeners, the Polish speakers, the I Give Up title is not like in Polish poddaję się, but is oddaję się.
Oddaję się.
Yeah. So I give up, it's like I give up to someone. So up to God, up to, you can say mother, father. So at this point, when you listen to the song I Give Up, do not think I give up like I can't do it, I can't take it anymore, but think I give up and there's someone who will take care of me. And now, because it will be like landing, those who still have questions, then how can I find God when I am alone and I have no family member beside me? And I just wondered, it will be a combination of question what is like listed and what I want to add at the end. So for you, question, what was the most challenging about the song, about writing? This is like first part of question. Second part for the audience. For you, what was the most difficult while listening to the song?
Good question. Luckily, thank God I know the answer. Because I had to think for a second, like, oh my gosh. But then I know. When I write music, normally I'm a storyteller. And so in stories, you have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And also, I'm a positive person, an optimist, So even if I talk about something bad, I always have to round it out to something positive. And in this song, because of what I was actually experiencing, I just didn't want to... Well, let me say this. What set up the song was I was sitting on a pier and I was listening to music because I knew I was going to leave Poland because I felt like I was having an emotional breakdown. I was listening to one song that came on randomly, and it was called I Just Want to Be Loved by Jill Scott. And she sang from a place of an artist. I'm traveling around the world doing all these different things. And, I'm known. I know life means change and things like that. But at the end of the day, I just want to be loved. And that resonated with me so much that I just burst into tears. The next song that came on after that was on random, was a song called You Are Loved by CeCe Winans. And the chorus is, you are loved. Somebody told me to tell you, you've been waiting for someone to say that you are loved. And it was so peaceful, the music, the arrangement. And so for me, it was like both were true at the same time. I wanted to be loved, and then somebody's telling me that I am loved. So I just put them on repeat, and I sat on that pier and I cried for hours. because it was that duality, you know. And so for me, when I wrote I Give Up, the hardest thing for me to do was to not make it a positive ending at the end. Now, there is some light towards the end when you sing, yeah, no more, yes, Lord, but then I bring the chorus back on purpose. And I change the chords to sound a little bit more minor and sad and more thoughtful and to contemplate, because I just wanted to, I didn't want it to be this experience when the listener hears it like, okay, I hear it, I feel these emotions, okay, and now they're gone. I wanted to keep those emotions, and then I just wrote a new song that will be released in a few, sometime, called Brand New Me, A Brand New Me. And that is the next day after the night of I Give Up. So you'll hear, so there is a, the songwriter and me, the storyteller, there is a, positive ending, but it doesn't happen in that song because I wanted somebody to play that song on repeat and be able to get all of their emotions out and to feel like, okay, I can really get it out. And then when they're ready, they can listen to A Brand New Me and move forward.
Okay, and so basically, dear audience, that's all from my side. To wszystko z mojej strony, kochani. Brian, it was great pleasure to host you in the podcast, and I'm happy that we could, even by the camera, see each other and to talk. And now I will switch to Polish just to do ending.
Okay.
Także, kochani, jeszcze raz bardzo się cieszę, że mogłem gościć Briana w odcinku bonusowym. Tak jak nagrywałem odcinek ten właściwy, który mogliście posłuchać przed chwilą, to w tym momencie nie mieliśmy jeszcze zaaranżowanego spotkania, ale jak mogliście usłyszeć, udało się. Także na ten czas to tyle z mojej strony. Trzymajcie się pozytywnych wibracji. Do usłyszenia w następnym odcinku. Cześć.